All right, we appear to be live. Fishing Golf has first blood. Good morning, sunshine. Good to see you. Looks like I got two waiting in Rumble, and it's time to talk about law. Because, good Lord, 700 bills signed into law in Georgia. That's a big number. We're going to talk about it. All right, good morning. Good morning. It is Wednesday morning, Wednesday the 26th, and tomorrow is the debate. And I've got an idea for a show for tomorrow morning, kind of a pre-debate show that I hope you'll enjoy. Cameron and I had a conversation about it this morning. Speaking of Cameron, of course, we can't get him on the show as often now. For one, because I moved out to the middle of nowhere, and for two, the boy works like a rented mule. In fact, when I spoke to him this morning, it was just before 6 o'clock, and he was on his way to the office. The boy is just killing himself. I'm proud of him for what he's doing, and but even more, I can't wait to see him get to the other side of the objective and get a little more free time. But that keeping that in mind, you know, as y'all know from I've talked about it a little bit. I've had some health issues recently. Threw my back out last week. Sometime in the not too distant though, uh, one of the things that I really want to do is I want to do a new intro that I if and as soon as possible I want to do two new intros. One that just features me and excludes Cameron. Um, Not because I want to distance Cameron from the show, but because I want to have the one where it introduces where Cameron is in the intro. I want that to be special when he is in studio, or even when we're having him call in to do a remote host. And then I want to do another one as soon as I can assemble the horde, where those devotees to the infamous thread who help with the background research and all the work that goes into putting together the content for the show uh, are in that, and that I want that intro to be uh, more of a microfilm, so it'll end up being like a 1.5 to somewhere between 1.5 and 3 minutes long uh, little action sequence or visual dramedy type of thing. But I threw my back out last Thursday and got an X-ray yesterday, and the doctor said, "Well, I can report from this X-ray that you, my friend, have an age-appropriate quantity of arthritis in your lumbar." And as my good friend John said, that might be the most government shit I've ever heard. Did you have to sign a hand receipt for that shit? What happens if I get the X-ray and I've got more than my expected allotment of middle-aged arthritis? Do I have to give some back? I mean, go on in, get what you want. I'm good. You can have it. The other revelation there was holy shit! I thought I had lost a lot of weight as a result of my hospital stay and recent illness and all the stuff with the pneumonia and everything. I thought I had lost a lot of weight. I thought I'd lost around 30 pounds. Um, bringing me down to just a little under 310. And nope, I weighed in at 389 yesterday. I'm sorry, 289 yesterday, which is rapidly approaching fighting weight for me. Like, yeah, when we do some of the veteran montage stuff and old memory lane type stuff, and you see the pictures of like my old military unit where I'm sticking up out of the back and I, big scary jacked ripped monster that I was back then. That was at 270. Maul points out someone had been doing. I had been doing the intermittent fasting for about 2 months before I got sick, and I'm not really messing with that so much at the moment. But I'll be revisiting that habit probably within the next month or so, and just kind of going back steady on it and see where it takes us. But that's enough housekeeping and introduction. Let's talk about this article. A buddy of mine sent this to me, and he's one of my buddies with one of them backgrounds. So we're not gonna, we're just gonna refer to him as one of my buddies. Sent me this article yesterday, and we had a bit of a conversation about it. And I want you to take a look at the early parts of this headline. I want to talk about that a little bit first. Now, the headline, of course, is here are some of the Georgia laws going into effect on July 1st. In Atlanta, after a busy legislative session, there are many new laws going into effect on July 1st, and some of them could directly impact you and your community. Within 40 days of the legislative session ending, Governor Brian Kemp signed 709 bills into law. 709 bills signed into law. Now, that seems like a big number. As conservatives, most of us adhere to the basic principle that the government governs best, which governs least. Right? And in keeping with that, I would be remiss not to be highly critical, of seeing that Governor Kemp signed 709 bills into law. But then I went and asked, first I tried to just search the internet for some statistics, and the internet is cagey on statistics for this particular question. So I went to ChatGPT. And believe it or not, ChatGPT is pretty good at certain things if you know how to phrase your question. And so I carefully asked it to give me an idea of what the average number of bills signed into law by governors is. And it turns out that's a difficult number to pin down as an average between states, because there's so much difference from state to state, and points out that in New York State, on average, this is just psychotic. New York State, on average, New York lawmakers introduce 16,000 bills every year. Now, that is the highest among all states. And that's the number of bills introduced by lawmakers, but not signed into law. But see, here's the thing about that. 16,000 laws proposed in a given year. I guarantee you that a large number of those are laws that were proposed last year and the year before and the year before that at ad infinitum. Because, of course, we know that New York is a very heavily Democrat state, and the habit of the Democrat, like we saw with the march toward Obergefell and the long slog from safe, legal, and rare to up until the 89th trimester, and the whole walk through from uh, the Frankfurt School to the modern uh, cult of DIE, and of course the eventuality of Woodrow Wilson up through Hillary Care to finally Obamacare. The name of the game for the Democrat is constant, consistent re- repetition, pressure, and refusal to accept. We spoke a little bit about the recent elections in Rockdale County, where I just fled because they suck. But Rockdale County had a very good outcome. They flipped all three seats of their board of commissioners. They flipped all three seats, and that's a big deal. Um, Now they flipped them for somewhat more conservative, mostly uh, commissioners, but even if they were all liberal commissioners, like, what was really going on is a bunch of corrupt units had to be got rid of. Uh, Damn, I lost where I was going with that. I had I was going somewhere with that, and I lost my train of thought on that. Let me back up a little bit. Nope, completely lost my train of thought on that. Let me just back. I'm just going to back all the way up to holy shit. 709 laws sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot of rules. Now, and frankly, it sounds like too much. It really does. Um, oh, that's right, the pressure campaign. Um, the Democrat continuously presses the pressure campaign in Rockdale County. This is where I was going with that. For example, there has been for years they've been trying to build a new courthouse, and in that particular case, there is a building that used to be a business that the county owns. It's on a large piece of property, and it's essentially vacant. It's just sitting there taking up space and costing the county money, and could very cheaply and easily be converted into a new courthouse. The board of and the the people of the county have voted against that new courthouse several times, and the county commissioners have just decided, you know what, we don't care what you voted for, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to change the rules, we're going to change the law, we're going to sue for compliance, and we're going to do the things we want to do, even though you voted against them. And this is a county where the corruption is so over the top. Like, I mean, I watched the sheriff go into a board of commissioners meeting demanding several $100,000 for police vehicles, and he was reminded, you still have, I think at the time it was $1.5 million in the budget for new police vehicles. And it came out that what was going on is it wasn't that he didn't realize he had that money left in the budget. It was that he wanted a certain luxury SUV kitted out and outfitted to be the sheriff's personal sheriff's vehicle with all the badging on it. And that wasn't allowed under the rules of the budget item that had been cleared for new vehicles. He just wanted $150,000 for his luxury sheriff's SUV, right? That's the kind of shit that goes on there. And I actually don't know what happened with his reelection bid. Pitt, Danny, if you could, if what, let me know what's going on with that sheriff's reelect bid, because I haven't paid any attention to that particular race. I don't know if that was on this last ballot or if that's on the if that's coming up. Oh, but I'm pretty sure it's this year. Anyway, so let's take a look though, because I will say this in defense of the 709 laws. Uh, and let me how to parse this. What? Okay, so even Donald Trump. Oh, okay. Pitt Danny says that Levitt was reelected. So, yeah, good job, Rockdale. Almost. You know, close, but keep trying. Um. Anyway, so 709 bills into law. Um. In all fairness, many of these bills into law are, administrative stuff. I've been critical of Obama, Trump, and Biden on this show, all for overusing executive orders. Obviously Biden and Obama overusing and abusing uh, the executive order, the theoretical power of the executive order by using it to usurp authority, which is not ceded to them by the Constitution. And in fairness, Trump had the thing with the bump stock ban that was an absolute overreach, a total failure of the separation of powers. But that was the only one that I think he really got wrong. And I only mention that because what the executive order is really for is for the chief of the administration to instruct the administration itself on its activities. So where Obama abused it and where Biden has abused it, one of the arguments that they make is that they can use that authority to instruct law enforcement not to enforce certain laws. But they phrase it very carefully. Instead, what they do is they instruct law enforcement to deprioritize the enforcement of certain laws with an argument that certain other laws are more important to be enforced at the moment, and they'll list reasons. And the reasons are always they're either vague, they're either so vague that they wouldn't meet muster in a court argument, or they're transparently corrupt. A great example of this was Obama's use of the DACA rules to create sort of de facto amnesty without the authorization or authority to do so. But all that aside, within these 709, there's a lot of stuff like, there's a cost of living increase for the wages assigned to teachers. There's a raise in there for teachers. There's a raise for law enforcement. So the Dooley County Board of Education's board members have received an update to their pay. They'll now receive $200 while they serve on the board, and any expenses board members receive while traveling for official business will be comped. Houston County Judicial Circuit will receive a fourth judge. See, there's a lot of stuff like that. No new Central Georgia specific laws. Baldwin County will now receive a board of elections, while its board of commissioners will now have staggered terms, et cetera, et cetera. But there are some interesting ones. New Georgia specific laws for the state. A new Georgia law can help you if you hate spam calls. The legislature passed the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which cracks down on telemarketing calls. This act prevents anyone from making a call on behalf of another company. I can't wait to see how that shakes out. Because I ain't gonna lie, I don't get enough personal. It's not there yet, but it's nearly to the point that such a high percentage of the calls that I receive to my private phone number are not personal calls from people I'm interested in talking to, that it feels like I'm just paying for a device that harasses me and begs me for money. And that, I just about want to turn the damn thing off and stop paying for it. But I do need to be able to call my mama. And by the way, if you haven't done it recently, call your mama. The new law allows people to hold companies liable for illegal telemarketing calls that are made by third-party contractors. It also removes the requirement that they knowingly violate the regulations, noting that even if a telemarketer isn't aware of the law, it still applies to them. Residents can also pursue class action lawsuits against these telemarketers. Any violators could face a $1,000 penalty. On the housing side, homeowners and condo associations are now required to give property owners time to fix a contract violation. Okay, let me say this about that. Fuck HOAs. Get out of there. Go find you a place that doesn't have an HOA. They're not good for you. Just go. Do you live in a home in an HOA neighborhood in the suburbs? I guarantee you that if you get the hell out of the suburbs, you sell that shit box, and you take that money and run, you can get a house with some land in the country. And you'll be happier. And you'll be safer. Do it. And while you're at it, take your kids out of public schools. You should feel shame if your children are still in public schools. It should make your heart ache. I understand it can be difficult. Make it happen. But the Save at Home Act also requires rental units to be fit to live in and for the units to meet local and state housing codes. I would love to have some more information on what brought that up. But y'all know I spent the last several years doing real estate photography and videography and general, creating marketing materials for real estate properties. And that, I did it on everything from celebrities selling their multi-million-dollar mansion on the mountain and up in Buckhead, all the way down to, shooting every unit in a trailer park that they just cleared everybody out of and are remodeling to put renters in. Okay, real quick. And I'm actually gonna have to go look this up in a minute after the show just to satisfy my own morbid curiosity. When we were shopping, looking for the property, and found the house that we just bought, not maybe 50 miles down the road from here, I came across a property that touted itself as being, I think it was 21 bedrooms. It listed itself as a residential property with 21 bedrooms and it was like 21 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms, right? Like, wait, what? And it was, it was on like 5 acres, I think, and it was $250,000. And I said, well, okay, I can check this out. And I clicked the Zillow link on it, and it comes up, and it was a damn trailer park. And somebody was selling a whole damn trailer park. And I ain't gonna lie, if I wasn't at the time trying to get what I got here with my acreage and my woods and my creek and my shooting range and all that good stuff, if I wasn't looking for this and busy trying to get this, I might have just bought that trailer park and become a slumlord. And don't mistake me. I ain't put the idea out of my head yet. I mean, it's $250,000 for what, a dozen renters? That that mortgage pays that mortgage inflates itself out of existence in half a decade. That's easy money. I mean, as long as you're willing to do a little work, pay a couple of contractors occasionally. That ain't a bad one. That ain't a bad one. Anyway. Um. So the laws also these laws also include. I've got another list of them. Bear with me just a second, because y'all saw the page broken. I had to pull it back up, so I got to find my spot again. Here we go. New criminal laws. This is the one I want to talk about before we get on schools mandatory soloist. Oh, scoliosis test is no longer required. Children also receive a guide for social media use and okay, yeah. So new criminal laws. Those can new charge for stealing livestock. Those convicted face a felony charge and $10,000 fine with possibility of 2 to 15 years in prison. So yeah, $10,000 fine. Okay, guys, I'll tell you something. You can buy a cow already butchered. Okay. I think our last half a cow was $1,000. Right. That's just we'll buy a half a cow and split it with another couple, and fill up the freezer. Right. So don't don't go trying to spend 10 G's on one cow. just just go buy it. They're reasonable. This I like. The Georgia Squatter Reform Act was also passed. People living in another person's house without their consent will face criminal misdemeanor trespassing charges and fines for back rent. They can also be evicted within 3 days of police being notified. Now, I'm going to say that's it's nice to see that something's being done, but y'all, squatters need to suffer for what they do. Right? They're okay. Right now, under the law, I would argue that you cannot be free in this world, because I know this sounds like a non sequitur, a tangent, but stick with me, and I think we'll finish up on this. You cannot be free in this world. The United States of America is the place where you can be the freest. But so long as you must pay taxes, and I do mean must, so long as it is the case that you cannot choose to pay no taxes, you remain a slave of the state who holds a debt who holds you in a debt which you did not voluntarily incur. Okay? It's this simple. The argument can be made that all taxes, with one exception, and we'll get to that, but all taxes are voluntary, with the one exception, which is to say that you don't have to pay income tax if you choose not to have an income. You don't have to pay fuel tax if you choose not to purchase fuel. You don't have to pay sales tax if you choose not to purchase items. You choose not to purchase anything. Right? But you have to live somewhere. And under the current composition of the United States, you do not have the option. You can't just go out in the woods and live somewhere legally. You cannot make the claim on unclaimed land and own it. With There are some narrow exceptions, right? But the closest you can come to choosing to opt out of the system entirely and not pay taxes is to voluntarily be homeless. So you cannot truly be free until property tax is abolished entirely. Now, if property tax is abolished entirely, then you can choose purchase a home, pay it off, own it outright, and simply refuse to do any of the voluntary things on which taxes are levied. Now, as the law stands right now, even if we abolish the all property taxes, we also need to abolish estate, which I would say are also property taxes, and death taxes, right? It needs to be the case that you can voluntarily choose to leave the taxes behind. Now, you make sacrifices to do that, right? In order to pay zero taxes, you're choosing to not have internet. You're choosing to not have a cell phone. You're choosing to not buy your food in a grocery store, right? But without property taxes, you can own a piece of land, grow your own food, get your water from a well. You could even put up solar panels and have, a powered pump for the well and heating and air and a refrigerator. You don't have to go completely Little House on the Prairie, but you could. You are not free. You cannot be truly free until you have the liberty to choose not to pay taxes. As long as the government gets to pretend that by dint of being born, you have incurred an unreconcilable debt, that at no point can you have paid off the debt which you did not voluntarily incur, which is the tax bill that you're hit with every time it comes around, right? As long as you cannot choose not to pay that tax bill, you cannot choose not to earn money. You either have to have some sort of income generating occupation or some sort of self-perpetuating residual income from which, at the barest minimum, your property tax is taken. Why can I not choose to simply have no money but live in a house that I own outright, never bother to leave my own property, because I can hunt, I can grow vegetables, I can draw my water from the well, I can be left fuck alone. As long as property taxes exist, you cannot choose to just be left alone. You don't have that freedom. And if at any point you are not free at all, then you are not free at all. Freedom is an absolute state. It is not subject to gradation. It is not like a tomato that can be more incorrect than a suspension bridge than a salad, right? For you Big Bang junkies out there. So for that reason, That's I say all that to say this. Property rights, intellectual property and physical property, property rights are prime. Without property rights, you cannot be free. And I'll go to the libertarian argument a little bit on this. Part of that argument includes the argument that your body is your property. You personally own your body and have the authority to make decisions on its behalf. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Big L Libertarian Party because there are a lot of libertarians that will take that argument to make the my body, my choice pro-abortion argument, because they're sociopaths and atheists, and they disbelieve in the ensoulment of a human in utero. So they make the argument that the woman's body is the woman's property, and so is the body of the child, because it has not yet attained individual rights. And I say bullshit. That, and anybody who makes, and this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm going to come right back off of it. Anybody who makes the argument that the body of an unborn baby is the property to be disposed of at will of the mother carrying the baby is intellectually identical to everyone who ever made the argument that the Negro lacks human rights because the Negro, a slave, is a separate thing from what is a human that has human rights. A person making the pro-abortion argument is making the same intellectual argument as a person making the pro-slave argument on the basis of the humanity and the distinction between human beings and the Negro. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of very good arguments for slavery that do not discount the humanity of the slave, but rather incorporate the culpability of the human's criminal precepts as a reason to deprive that person of human rights and punish them with the assignment of indenture. But that's a completely different thing. We're talking property. And so for that reason, the fact that it looks like they made the squatter law, it's just a misdemeanor with a fine. And let me get back to it because it crashed again. The Squatter Reform Act, people living at another person's house without their consent will face criminal misdemeanor trespassing charges and fines for back rent. Doesn't even say anything about jail time. My man, if you are arrested and convicted on squatting, your ass belongs in jail. That should be a felony right off the rip. That should be a felony, hands down, and your ass belongs in jail. Not to put too fine a point on it, but after $500, at least after $500, you're talking about grand larceny, right? When you're stealing property, right? They break in your truck and steal a pack of cigarettes, and it's inconvenient. They break in your truck and they steal, a rifle. Oh, no, that's a very different matter. Yeah. How about stealing a house? You stole my house? So squatting is worse than grand larceny. 100%. Looks like I'll add you this. Yeah, Maul points out you get 3 hots and a cot. Yeah. And you know what? That's for a squatter, that's more than you deserve. Uh, you know, you know, if you're one of the things you got to understand about squatters, when you're talking about squatters, you're not talking about somebody that's desperate, right? You're not talking about somebody who's chronically homeless. You're talking about somebody who is intentionally trying to steal a valuable asset. And the way the squatters work is they don't take, and this is true, this is more true in more liberal, more left leaning places like New York and California, where that epidemic has become really serious. But what they do is they move in and they create some kind of paper trail, right? They get a cell phone, and they get a cell phone bill that's mailed to the house that shows that they've been there for 30 days or whatever, right? And then they use that to make the argument, no, I've been here for X period of time, therefore I'm the legal resident. Um, and then once they've done that, they they have effectively moved the argument from the criminal court, where the charge should be breaking and entering and burglary, something of that sort, right? Um, trespassing, breaking and entering, burglary, etc. If they show that that proof of residency, then it moves from being a criminal case being a civil case, at which point the court treats the homeowner, and I say homeowner, not landlord. This is an important distinction. The homeowner gets treated as if they are a landlord, and the squatter, the invader, the burglar, gets treated as if they are an unruly tenant. Well, here's the difference. You call the police on a burglar, the police arrive and the burglar is there. They arrest the burglar and incarcerate him for breaking and entering, burglary, trespassing, etc. Assuming the burglar is still there to be arrested, and he's carted off to jail. Now he's in the criminal system, and he's no longer your problem, homeowner. Now you'll get a call from the cops that they'll ask you to come in and testify, maybe when the trial happens, et cetera, et cetera. But by and large, he's no longer your problem. Apparently, I'm getting a phone call from a number I don't recognize. If that was one of y'all, leave a comment, and you could try again. In fact, I see what's happened. See, normally that doesn't happen because my phone is programmed to be on Do Not Disturb from 7:30 to 8. Now we're 15 minutes over. We've gone a little long on the show. Where was I? Oh, okay. So if they've moved into the house and they've pulled a trick so that they've got a piece of paper that says they've been there for 30 days and in one of those jurisdictions, then the case gets moved to a civil matter, where now, because they're being treated as the tenant, right? Even if you say, hey, I want this tenant evicted, and here's the list of absolutely reasonable reasons that this tenant should be evicted. Well, the tenant has some rights, and those include that you can't throw them out today, right? And it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. You might have 30 days. Most places it's 90 days. So at a minimum, they bust out that cell phone bill or whatever piece of paper it is that they use to establish that tenancy, that residency period, and now they get to steal your property for 90 days, and the timer on that starts after it's been argued through a civil court, which is, I'm sure you can imagine, can easily be more than 90 days. But let's be generous. Let's say you just happen to be in a low density, high efficiency court system, and they get you on the docket for the argument in 90 days. That your best case scenario there is you've just had your house, your home, stolen from you by someone with no legitimate claim for half a year. Half a year in which, by the way, you as the homeowner are still responsible for whatever mortgage payments exist, whatever tax bills are attached to it, right? You can shut off the utilities. You say, hey, you know what? I'm not paying for power and water then. You're going to squat in my house? I'm going to shut off the utilities. I'm not paying for power and water. Well, there's nothing to stop them from taking the same residency argument and just turning the utilities on themselves. And there they are, 6 months, rent free, just paying for utilities. And they basically get to live their life like they own the house. See, yeah, Pitt Danny says these laws are made by Democrats, the party of thieves. Like I've said many times on the show, at the very core of the philosophy that is required for a person to vote Democrat is the base presupposition that it is morally preferable to take by force than to earn by labor. It is better to cause someone else harm for your own profit than it is to earn value for labor or trade. It is morally preferable to cause harm for profit. That is the base presupposition of every Democrat position, always and everywhere, without exception. It's because that's the core basis of Marxism. It begins the a priori philosophical position that leads to that presupposition that the causing of harm for profit is morally preferable to the exchange of labor for goods and services. It begins with the basic Marxist precept that envy is a reasonable position to take as an economic and philosophical precept, and that the mere having of more than me is sufficient cause that the government should use force to redistribute your wealth by violence from you to someone else. It is the very core of their religious, dogmatic, philosophical politic. It is what makes them Marxists. Violence is an inherent base tenet of Marxism. Marx even, Karl Marx even said, and this is actually something I agree with, but understanding the context of his of the presupposition which I've just described, Marx said, and drew no punches in saying it, you must always and everywhere frustrate any attempt by force and violence, if necessary, to seize your weapons by anybody who might make such a maneuver. Right? And that's Karl Marx. You must always and everywhere, without exception, frustrate, even if by force and violence, any attempt to seize your weapons. And I agree with that. That is probably the single decent and intelligent thing that Marx ever managed to say. It was probably on one of those third Tuesdays when he was allowed to wear the pants for the afternoon and leave the house and get some fresh air. Um, some of y'all got that joke. Some of y'all need to know more about what Marx was, about the monster that man was, before you proceed to vote anywhere ever. Even if you vote the way I want you to vote, you should know why you should be voting that way. Go read you some Marx and get smart on what the enemy really is. Okay, we are 20 minutes over. My wife and kids are probably rolling out of bed and wondering what the hell I'm up to. So, y'all, I think I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it right there. I appreciate you joining me this morning. Join me tomorrow morning. I'm going to do sort of a prediction and analysis and prep for tomorrow evening's debate. I don't, honestly, I really don't recommend that y'all bother with the debate tomorrow night. I think His Majesty was correct yesterday when he said that there's nothing new really to be learned there. But, of course, I'm in the business, so I kind of have to watch it. I will be. My plan tomorrow night is I'm not going to do a show like a live running commentary fact check show. All the big boys are doing that. Tim Pool's going to be doing it. Steven Crowder's going to be doing it. So if that's what you want to watch one of those, and I'm sure they'll put on a good show. That said, however, there is a thing going on that y'all should pay attention to, and I'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow. Let me go ahead and add a note about this. CNN, who's hosting tomorrow's debate, and I think I talked about this a little bit yesterday, is trying to pull some shenanigans. They are every major news network, Fox News, MSNBC, NBC, everybody. Every major television news network is being allowed by CNN to rebroadcast and simulcast the live broadcast of the debate. Which, by the way, the debate is, they're telling us that it's going to be live, but it's live remote with no audience. So there's nothing to stop them from having it on a half-hour delay, in which case it's still technically live, but that allows them to edit in real time, essentially, and change the narrative as it develops. But they're doing this whole thing, and I'll talk about this a little more tomorrow. They're telling all the YouTube commentators that what's going to happen is, if anybody tries to do the kind of shows that many of us, all of us in the political sphere have done in the past, where basically you do the show and it looks like this, right? Or it looks like this, or I get the picture over my shoulder on one side or the other, where I'm running letting the debate play and then talking over it and doing live fact checking and commentary. And, it might even be as simple as, I let the debate play in the picture right here, and I just spend the whole time saying, "Oh, Biden's a lying asshole," right? That is clear cut fair use under the fair use doctrine, and just plain and obvious. And CNN is telling everybody that, hey, if you try to do this type of show, which is clearly and always has been, and this has been argued and discussed and ruled on in courts, a clear case of fair use for the presidential debate to be live streamed with commentary. CNN is saying we'll file a DMCA, which means they'll file a takedown, making the claim that you're infringing on their copyright. Now, the problem here, if we were talking about, I take the stream after the fact and I do a commentary and publish it as a show, then I can make my argument and get my show restored. But when they file a DMCA against your live stream, that's it. The system automatically takes down your live stream and you can't restart it. And even if, well, you can, but there's this whole thing. But if you do, you lose the audience that you had, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, and I've been making comments to the appropriate people on this. I'm trying to get them talking about this. Basically, what CNN has done by sending out an email explaining that their intent is to file these DMCAs. These DMCAs are, we already know, illegitimate because it's a clear case of fair use. So what CNN has done is they have basically said, it is our intent to commit the crime of filing false legal accusations of the crime of violating copyright law. We are announcing ahead of time that we intend to falsely claim that anybody who uses this stream in compliance with well-established fair use law will be accused and done harm to by the accusation, because the live stream will be taken down, falsely, of violating copyright law, which they will clearly not be doing because the question of fair use in this context has already been adjudicated on a number of occasions. There is not a question in law as to whether or not it is a legitimate fair use application to live stream someone else's live content while doing active commentary and critique. That is clear fair use. So that's another thing that's going to be happening tomorrow. I've just spent more time explaining that than I intended to. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow and God's willing again on Friday, because damn it, I haven't done a Firearms Friday in way too long, and I really miss it. I love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. I hit a button. Nothing happened. Try that again. Button. See, now that's what was supposed to happen. Be good, guys. Be safe.